Thank
Welcome to today's presentation. To access accessible copies of all PowerPoints from today's session, there is a QR code on this slide. Alternatively, you may also visit bit.ly/Penn Dell Rocks, all one word. That is http://bit.ly/PENN-DELROCKS. Welcome to today's presentation. To access accessible copies of all PowerPoints from today's session, there is a QR code on this slide. Alternatively, you may also visit bit.ly/Penn-Dell Rocks, all one word. That is http://bit.ly/PENN-DELROCKS. Welcome to today's presentation. To access accessible copies of all PowerPoints from today's session, there is a QR code on this slide. Alternatively, you may also visit bit.ly/Penn-Dell Rocks, all one word. That is http://bit.ly/PENN-DELROCKS. PENN-DELROCKS. Welcome to today's presentation. To access accessible copies of all PowerPoints from today's session, there is a QR code on this slide. Alternatively, you may also visit bit.ly/Penn-Del-Rocks, all one word. That is http://bit.ly/PENN-DELROCKS.
Hello, and welcome to session 3 of the Penn-Del AER Leadership Series, Taking Charge, Restore, Refresh, Renew. I am thrilled that you are joining us today. Today's session is titled Penn-Del Rocks, Bringing the Stone Age Forward to Social Media. We are so glad to have Maureen Army here to engage our creativity with this rock painting session. My name is Holly Russell, and I am the current president of Penn-Del AER. I will be your host for today. Thank you to those of you who were able to join us for the January session with Maria Lepore-Stevens, where we learned to take care of ourselves through movement and physical exercise. Stay tuned for the details for session 2 with Billy Brookshire, which has been rescheduled to mid or late May. In this session, we will focus on learning to make space in your life to just be, to identify self-nurturing activities, and to make use of comfortable minutes. In today's session, Maureen Army will help us to focus on our creative side through rock painting. We will learn how to paint rocks, share them in our community, and use social media to share with others now and in years to come. You may be wondering why we chose rock painting as part of this self-care series. Art has long been a creative way of expression and restorative therapy. Painting rocks and hiding them for others to discover has become a unique viral activity, especially during the quarantines of COVID-19. Before we get started, I'd like to give you some housekeeping notes to help you navigate through today's session. We will be using the chat feature today, so feel free to put any questions and comments in the chat box. Maureen will be taking questions throughout the presentation, and Vince McVeigh will be monitoring the chat box. I would like to encourage you to use the chat feature to add any memories or experiences that you've had in your life with rocks, art, or the combination of both. This session will be recorded and will be available to watch at a later time. A closing code will be given at the end of the session. There is no opening code. An email will be sent to you after today's session. The email will provide you a Dropbox link for your resource kit. It will also explain how to request a certificate of attendance. A link to the evaluation for today's session will also be provided. Please help us out and complete this survey. We really want these sessions to benefit you, and we take the information in the evaluation seriously to help improve our leadership events. There will also be an open mic after the credits, which will be an informal chat with Maureen. So feel free to take your time with your own rock painting creations. At this time, I'd like to invite Maureen Army, our presenter, to join us on the screen.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, Maureen. We are so thrilled that you'll be working with us today to help us focus on creativity through rock painting. Some of you may already know Maureen from her session at the Penn AER chapter conference titled Painting with a Visual Twist. Maureen is a certified low vision specialist and certified O&M specialist for the VA New Jersey Healthcare System Visor program. She found her career while guiding visually impaired and blind cross-country skiers in northern Vermont as an undergraduate student. Maureen attended Springfield College for her bachelor's degree, Western Michigan University for her master's in blind rehabilitation and O&M, and the Union Institute and University for her master's in counseling psychology. Maureen has been a professional instructor in the field of blind rehabilitation for 30 years, including teaching O&M, low vision, manual skills, living skills, and rehab teaching, computer access training, and also an O&M intern supervisor. She's worked in private, state, and federal agencies, including a maximum security prison. From the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina to the Crown of Maine, Maureen has enjoyed teaching students of all ages as an itinerant, residential, and clinic-based instructor. Maureen has also been an active board member in the Pillwillop Therapeutic Farm in Bristol, Connecticut for the past 16 years. She's volunteered at the farm and taught basic American Sign Language to parents and children who garden, attend art therapy, and/or counseling. Maureen, as you just heard, is very, very busy. She's always full of ideas and is also planning a sensory garden as a future project for the trails within the farm property. So now I turn it over to Maureen.
Thanks so much, Holly. Welcome, everybody. I'm very excited to be a part of this leadership series, and I'm very thankful to the leadership team for helping me get through this entire process so that we can paint today and enjoy some art and relaxation. As Holly said, the leadership series is about restoring, refreshing, and renewing us as we move forward this year. And I will mention some resources and techniques for self-care and staying resilient, like our rocks. And there will be an updated resource list with links and more videos beyond what you'll receive after today's session. So we'll be sure to make those accessible to everybody so that you can use them as you wish. So our everyday connection to our families and communities has been completely cut off for the past year. And my hope is that today's session will give you all a safe, fun, and creative way to express what you miss, what you love, what you hope for, and as the year continues on, how you can add some joy back into your lives. The process of creating can be messy, which we'll see today. It can be relaxing, it can focus you, and it's a great way to work through any anxiety and frustration. And the rocks, in our world have been an immense influence on the human species since before we were the human species, Homo sapiens. We've used rocks for shelter, weapons, art, communication, language and literature, travel, spirituality, healing and meditation, music, physical therapy, play, calculating and measuring time, measuring weight. It helps us learn from the past through fossils, and so much more. And if you just think about the words rock and stone, you can come up with an endless list of how these words and these physical items have shaped our species. For example, let's roll, which is how we start a movie or a presentation. So we rock and roll with music, and we use abacuses used to have stones on them. So there's a lot of different ways that we've used stones and rocks. So today we're going to paint rocks, and we're going to learn how to share the rocks with our communities. As we paint and create, we can use the process to help refocus, use our imaginations beyond the restricted spaces that we've all lived in this past year. We can create and send beautiful creations and kindness out into our world. And we can be mindful of how Mother Earth has provided so much for us through the eons. This project and your rocks will also provide a means for those of us who work in the field of vision loss to reach out to people in our communities and beyond our communities. The rocks will have a short message on the back, which we'll show you in a little while, that will lead folks back to our Vision Rocks Facebook page and beyond. We're also setting up a YouTube channel to provide more information on blindness and on rock painting and different kinds of art. So I will talk a little more about that at the end of the presentation. And as we go forward, please remember you can ask questions through the chat feature. We'll try to get to as many as we can. There's a lot that's going to happen today. Don't feel like you have to get everything done that I'm doing. And please don't feel like you need to copy the rocks that I am painting. You can create whatever you need to or want to. And you can just watch if you don't feel like painting. So right now, I'm going to have the focus on the rocks change to my rocks here on the table. And I'm going to lead us in a short mindful exercise. All right. So I would like everyone to pick up one of your chosen rocks for today. And if you're comfortable with it, please close your eyes. Make sure your feet are planted on the ground and take a few deep and slow breaths. You want to hold that rock on your table or in the lap. Feel the shape of the rock. Feel the weight of the rock. Is it smooth? Does it have crevices? Get a sense of the space it takes up. What it smells like. Will it make a sound if you tap it? And as I continue to talk, I would like you to continue to get to know your rock and relax. We'll have a space today full of kindness and fun, without judgment or stress, and filled with creativity and some well-deserved joy. So keep your eyes closed and keep breathing. As a child, I collected rocks as reminders of places I had been. I could imagine many people and creatures who touched that particular rock, or imagine that I was the very first being who was ever touched or seen that rock. In nature, water forms rocks. However, without rocks, we wouldn't have the lovely sights and sounds of a babbling brook or the raging power of a waterfall. Most every person, and even animals, embrace the warmth of lying on a sun-soaked boulder with water cooling our feet. Volcanoes blast out molten rock to create new islands and land, and tectonic plates around the world push and pull, sending up millennial-old buried rocks to form new and sharp, jagged mountains. Desert heat and winds turn ancient rocks and mountains into hills and valleys of sand that can move and flow sometimes around the world. And glaciers full of ice ebb and flow throughout the pace of time, grinding and transporting rocks around the world. So Mother Earth, she shrugs, she sighs, she laughs or trembles, and her bones of rock continue to express her changes of mood, her need for renewal. So imagine this tiny rock in your hand could have experienced in a moment or an eon some or all of Mother Earth's emotions, and now it's here for you to shape and express your mood, your mind, your feelings, your playfulness, and your connection back to Mother Earth and your renewal. It is a gift from the largest rock we humans know. So let us begin and share this gift that we create upon. So you can open your eyes slowly and give your new rock friend a hug. And let's get ready to take a peek at some painted rocks that I found online. If you haven't decided what you want to paint, I'm hoping that these few slides will spark some ideas for you. All of the images are from other painters that posted online. And if I found their names, I put it within the slide. I will point out the few that I created in the slides, so everybody should, have credit where credit is due. And we also have alt text available to be used if you can benefit from those descriptions. So we'll put up the first PowerPoint slide. Pendel Rocks, bringing the Stone Age forward to social media. So let's go to the next slide. There you go. So on the left, we have a small rock painted like a hobbit or fairy house with a blue leaf for a roof. And the other picture to the right of that has some small pebbles that are painted with DC superhero symbols like Batman and Superman and Captain America's Marvel. We won't get into that, and 3 Marvel superhead heroes. So we have Iron Man, the Hulk's face, and Spider-Man. Next slide. These are some fun rocks that are a little different. They are, the small rock on the left is painted like a 3-ring binder, ruled paper, and it says, "Dear Rock, I win paper." And on the right side, there are 3 light and 3 dark green light, the rocks painted like cacti with eyes, and they're all in tiny potted pots, plant pots, sorry. Next slide. We can come back to these slides also if there's one you want to see a little more later on. So these are kindness message rocks, and the first image is 16 small rocks painted with simple images and words like colorful, and it has a rainbow and a cloud, or kind, and there's a flower, or love, and there's a heart painted on there. And the one to the right, the picture to the right, is a stone with a storm cloud raining, and it says, "Storms don't last forever." So these are more encouraging messages. The one on the left is a rock painted like a mountain in a field, and it says, "You can move mountains." And the one on the right is a rock painted with 2 penguins hugging each other. It says, "One day someone is going to hug you so tight that all of your broken pieces will stick back together." In our seasonal rocks, I found these images where the first one is a rock painted with pink, purple, and white spring flowers and some green leaves. The center image has some rocks that the backgrounds aren't painted, but in white, there are some ocean images. So an anchor, some seashells, a compass arrow. And the rocks on the right slide, the third or picture, sorry, there are 4 rocks there painted with a gnome, some snowmen, and an elf, and they're all more detailed in the design, and there's a little bit of snow in some of them. These are an example of some braille rocks that I found online. The one on the left has 4 little yellow rocks with the word joy in English and in braille, and they all have different little images like a flower, a heart. And the center one is a rock that says kind in English and in Braille. And the rock on the right actually is in English and in tactile Braille. There's a little bit of raised paint in the Braille, and that says love. Now, these are two rocks that I painted a few weeks back. This is what we call an acrylic pour. These rocks, you never can predict what you're going to get. So this first rock has a swirl of colors, the blue, teals, pinks, white, black. There's a little bit of earthy brown and some yellow. And the second rock is heart-shaped with red, black, and white swirls of color. And Mary Nell spotted an area to the right that looks like an eye, which I thought was pretty neat. Okay. And these are more detailed sceneries. There's a painting of a lighthouse on an island on a flatter rock. And then the picture to the right is a detailed painting of a white and red rowboat anchored in a lake with rolling hills and blue sky in the background, all reflecting in the water. These are more simple rocks with scenery. There's a dark blue night sky with some twinkling stars and the moon. And at the bottom, it says, shoot for the moon. And the right rock says, or sorry, it's an isolated island with 3 royal palm trees with the ocean surrounding it and a cloudy blue sky. These are 3 pictures of different kinds of animal rocks. The first one has 3 small rocks with an orange fox face, a brown bear head, and a gray owl head. There's the middle image is 5 bug-like creatures with winter sweaters, scarves, and red heart-shaped noses. And the image on the right is an egg-shaped rock painted yellow with 2 big eyes and a little beak. And it looks like a little chick, which is, you know, appropriate for this time of year, for spring. On the next slide, we have more detailed animal rocks. So these are lots more lines and colors. The first one is a brown hedgehog sitting with a red knit hat, and it's snowing. And the image on the right is a bright red male and brown female cardinal sitting on a snowy branch. So these are simple Zentangle rocks. I will explain more about Zentangle a little later on. The first rock are sand-colored rocks, river rocks, with printed animal designs like zebra and cheetah patterns. And the rock on the right is a simple rock with no painted background, and it's got a black and gray heart with a little opening at the top and a paw print. And then finally, we have more advanced Zentangle rocks, and these are hard to describe because they're all very different and original. But the first image shows gray rocks with no paint on them, just black ink that shows some designs similar to flowers and Aztec patterns, etc. The middle picture has 4 colorful spiral rocks with tactile dots, and these rocks are used for meditation. The dots on them are tactile in some of the lines. And the final rock is a heart-shaped pattern that's filled with flowers, paisley designs, and leaves, and blacks, oranges, and yellows. Just gonna take a quick drink. So let's rock. I was not able to find any adaptive resources for painting rocks. I have taught the class that was mentioned earlier, adaptive canvas painting class for folks with vision loss or people who teach folks with vision loss. So I think the best way to start today is to think back on the meditation we did in the beginning and on your rock. And once you figure out where on your rock you want to paint an image or words, you can use a variety of items to keep you oriented within the rock canvas. A small piece of Velcro, you know, at the top of the rock. I don't have one on this particular rock, but you would put it there on the edge of the rock. We'll mark the top for you. And then on the back, I put in a wiki stick, you know, a nice tactile heart that you could paint within or surround it, and then either keep the wiki or take it off. I also use painter's tape, which you'll see me doing in a little while, to mark out an area. You can use other tapes as well. I just find painter's tape easy to work with. You can also add scents to the paints, like a vanilla extract or a lemon extract, and that can help people know which colors they're working with initially, or are on your palette. You can use contrast and lighting and magnification devices, to enhance your view of the rock, or your canvas. And you can also use things like beads. I have some little beads right here. That it's kind of dark in there, but there's red and white beads that you can use for making braille on your rock with a little bit of paint or glue. You can use googly eyes, which don't have any right now, but feathers, you can use puff paint, etc., to create braille and other fun pieces to share. I have a document that is in the resource list from the teachingvisuallyimpaired.com site, and it has tons of items and ideas that help spice up your paintings and your rocks. So it's a great list of things to try. So caution, which everybody should be aware of, thus the apron. Acrylic paint is water soluble, so you can wash it off your skin and it isn't poisonous, but it's very difficult to get out of cloth. Be sure you have an apron or old clothes and a rag or paper towels to help wipe up messes. And we can, I have a towel on the ground here because I'm not at home, and there's cloth, there's a rug down below. So any questions at this point? I have a few trays to show you, a few setups to show you before we get going. Do we have any questions? So I'll start, and if there's questions, Doug will relay them to me. So the first,
no questions currently, so
Okay.
You're good to go.
Thanks. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you, I'm going to reach over to get it, my acrylic, basically my acrylic paint, general painting. So I'm using, a 4-cup holder, recyclable holder. You can use that. I asked you to get egg cartons. You can use those as well. And then I have the coffee filter with my rock on it. I painted it this morning just to give it a good background. So you can lay it in there and it keeps it up for you, or you don't need to use the coffee filter. You can lay it like that. Okay. So it's a very basic. And then I have a few colors that I will put on a paper plate and mix when I get to working with this rock, which will be soon. We'll come back to that. All right, and then the next tray, it's a similar setup, but I'm going to show you the paint pens. I have a few colors that I'm going to use. I'm sure you can see that. And I will show you how to prime these pens and how to use them as we go. Again, you can put your rocks directly on paper on the table, or you can lift it higher. This is a less messy situation. And again, you can use Sharpies as well. You can use nail polish to blend in paint colors. And I also have a lot of other sponges for blending or for adding patterns. Okay, and I also threw this together for a rock where we have these little bracelets with in braille, a hotline number on it. And it gives me a nice edge to kind of keep me on the edge where my paint would go. So that's another thing you can do. If you primed your rocks, make sure, or if you haven't primed them, I should say, make sure that you do it outside or in a really well ventilated area. I used this, get my upside down and right side up. So it's just a Rust-Oleum enamel, protective enamel. And then when you're going to seal, which I haven't done any of my rocks, again, you want to be outside and you're going to use something like this Krylon final finish, clear finish. Okay. And I also have, you don't need to use this, but it is helpful if you like to use, want your brushes to stay, you know, healthy. So there's that soap you can use. It really gets out the heavier paint. All right, and it can take several days for your rocks to dry before you want to seal them or want to write on them. And the priming is not a must. And I'll show you quickly the difference in color and brightness of the color. So I have two poured rocks here. This is a rock that I did not prime, much darker in color. This is a primed rock, and the colors, came out much more vividly. So it's up to you. If you haven't done it at this point, don't worry about it. So you should have prepared your workspace and chosen the type of painting you want to try today. Again, you can choose one, none, or all of them. And don't worry about falling behind or getting ahead of what I show. The goal is for you to paint at your speed and learn as we go. And there's no pressure. There's no judgment. The only pressure that should be felt is by carbon rocks so they can become diamonds. And I will continue to go into each technique so we keep within our time, and this will be recorded again so that you can, come back and see things as you have time. So let me grab my rock again. Show you here. And on the side, I'm going to just put two colors down. And I'm going to create a memory rock today. Make sure also that you have some water that you can rinse your brushes in if you're using lots of colors. And acrylic's really nice because it spreads nicely, it mixes well, it's easier to clean up, and it stays wet a little bit longer than some other paints do. Put a little bit of white in there. Now, before I mix and paint, I'm going to take my rock. I have two pieces of painter's tape, and I'm going to make a big X. I'm going to push it down really hard. There's the first part. Here's the second part. Do this right. So anyone who's Scottish will know what this is. This is going to end up looking like St. Andrew's flag of Scotland, hopefully. And all I'm going to do is get a little water on my brush. I'm going to mix my paint. And as I mix and paint, I'm going to talk about my uncle. So I have a great uncle who passed away at 98 around Thanksgiving, actually on Veterans Day. And he was a World War II veteran. And we've all had some kind of loss in our family. We have family members that are recovering, having difficulty recovering, and people we've lost who are friends, coworkers, family members. So it's been a very difficult year. I personally know over 30 people who've been affected by this disease, this virus. So, so I've got some paint, kind of thick paint on there, and I'm just gonna, this is a very simple painting. I wanted to keep it simple. And hopefully it'll be easy to show. Yeah. Make sure you get your edges. So traditionally, rocks are left on the headstones in Jewish cemeteries to represent people's memories of that person and the permanence of their visiting. Not, flowers are not so permanent, so rocks really represent that well. And in ancient cultures, we used to cover a grave in big rocks to protect the body from animals and other, people that might dig it up, like, kings in all their wealth. You can think of the pyramids that were built around the pharaohs. So like I said, I'm painting St. Andrew's Cross, which is the flag of Scotland. Background's going to be this light blue. And where I put the painter's tape in a cross, after this dries, I'll peel it up. And I won't let it dry too much before I do that. So it's a very simple painting. I'm not going to do the bottom. And again, please paint whatever you would like. Take your time. It doesn't have to do anything to do with vision loss. And the websites we're building, will be a way to lead folks to our field of work and lots of good information about vision as well as art. So if you've prepped your rock with a coat of white paint, it will provide, like I said earlier, a little more pop to your colors. So I use the light blue and the white. After it dries, I will peel up the tape and see how it looks. So back to my uncle for a second. He served in World War II. He's my great uncle, actually. And he died on Veterans Day last year. And he was married to Lillian. So Uncle Billy was 98 years old. He would have been 99 last weekend. And his wife, Lillian, who he called Peter his whole life, is 97. She also had COVID, but she survived. And she was able to, the hospital let them be together at the last few days or so that she was holding his hands as he passed. And they were married and sweethearts for over 77 years. He was first generation in the US and was the youngest brother of my maternal grandmother, she was the oldest of 5 girls, and their little brother, Billy, who was twice their height. So once this is dried, and before I seal, I'm gonna write with a Sharpie on the back of the rock, and I'm gonna write his name, his birth and death date, where he lived, and also write, find us at Vision Rocks 21 on Facebook. So here's an example of that. Turn it this way a little bit. So I just wrote in Sharpie on the back of one of my rocks. So this will help people when they find a rock, come to our Facebook page and share their rocks and their creations. And then they can place them somewhere else if they want, or they can keep them. And we actually have an interactive map that Doug and Greg on the leadership technology team helped me create. Well, they created it. And we're going to be able to put where you found the rock anywhere in the world. So maybe we'll see some of these rocks travel, which would be really neat. Sort of like Where's George, the dollar bill one. So okay. So another neat thing is my coworker and friend Jill, who's painting on the other side of my video here, was telling me that she was inspired by a checker set that she saw made of rocks. I forget what you said the board was made of. Plywood. Yeah. So the each side had a different pebbles painted differently. So one side had ladybugs and one side had little bumblebees, which I think is fantastic. I think it's really great. Yeah, and it's a nice little rustic kind of setup. She also told me about another setup that I thought was really pretty neat for those gardeners out there. And I add a little more paint here as I see it's getting some lighter colors coming in. So for our gardeners out there, you can paint your rocks to look like vegetables and fruit. So if you plant strawberries and you're having trouble seeing the marker, the little stick, you can put your strawberry rocks, you can get a rock maybe that big, paint a strawberry on it and put it in the row so you know exactly what's planted there. Another fantastic idea. Any questions at this point? So I'm gonna let this rock.
There's none yet.
Okay, I'm gonna let this rock dry. I'll peel it in a little bit just so we can see if the white came out as well as I hope. And we'll move on to my other rock that I just showed you that has the find us on Facebook. I'm actually gonna take this heart off and hopefully show you how a paint pen works. So let me give you some tips on paint pens. Get my stuff over here. I've only chosen 3 colors.
Maureen, there was a question, if you have any recommendations for how to paint on rocks that have more crevices, ones that are more textured versus smooth.
I definitely would prime them. And, you know, we're gonna see with these paint pens that this fine point might have more trouble on a rock that's more rough. This one's fairly smooth that I'm gonna work on, but in painting, you really have to sometimes just, you know, mush that brush in there and, you know, have a heavier brush that you can use to really get in. Like you can see, I totally missed an area here, but I'm not really worried about that today right now. But there are some ridges here, and you're gonna see on my really big rock that I primed how that's different, because this one I used the spray paint that I talked about. So it's a more even color coating. So you just got to work it in there, get more paint than you think you need, especially for that base layer. And then you got to let that dry. If you're just going to paint detail, you might want to find a smoother rock, just especially if you're just starting, as you really have to play with the brushes. I have a few brushes here that are different widths. So I have a very fine pointed one, and I have, this is one of my favorite brushes. It's a square head, and the fine point one, I tend to like to have a really good fine point brush for acrylic on canvas, because they can get messed up, you know, and fray very quickly. So it's just a matter of, you know, just trying different things and seeing what works for you. So I have 3 colors. Hopefully that answered the question. 3 colors here. I have a light blue, a pink, and a black. And you want to make sure if you have acrylic paint pens that you don't store them straight up and down. They need to be horizontal. And to prime your pens, you just shake them. So if I open this one up, it's white. I'm gonna find the right spot here. It's white, but if I prime it, I'm gonna shake it. A bit. And then I'm gonna actually find a piece of paper here to show you. I'm gonna press down, and then the little nib is gonna push in. It's hard to see on the white, but you'll see the colors start to come as I do this. I'm gonna hold it down, and you can see there's a little bit of black now in there, a little paint. Okay, so some actually came out there. So you're gonna shake, shake, shake all your colors. And again, if you're still working on the first rock, don't you worry about it. Shake all my pens. We'll see how we do. And this is kind of a Zentangle. And when you draw with these, you don't really want to go straight up and down, because you won't get the paint out that you need unless you're trying to prime your paint. And I didn't mention it earlier, but I have this grippy thing, plastic mat that I made that we put in cabinets, you know, or under rugs to help hold things, kind of like, oh, I can't even think of it anymore. It's been so long since I taught manual skills. But the sticky stuff is very helpful. So again, you don't want to prime 30 pens. I have a bunch of colored pens behind me, and I'm not going to prime them all, because the paint, it's a waste of paint. And I'm going to draw a heart with a paw print like we saw earlier in the slides. And today's my puppy Betty's first birthday. So we're going to add a little color instead of just doing a black and gray heart. Hopefully this will come out. Now my pens are very fine. You can get these in different widths for the nibs. So let me just start with a simple heart and see how I do. And again, I'm going to run into some up, around, and curve. So you see how thin that line is? That's because this is such a fine point. So I would, probably do better with paint at this point than using the paint pens, but they can give you a very fine line. And I'll just sort of work on that line again a little thicker. Okay, so you can use whatever colors you want. I'm going to actually put a little blue in there because I have a bunch of dogs and most of them are boys. So I don't want to leave them out. So let me tell you a little more about Zentangles, which is what this is kind of considered. The Zentangle method, if you go on zentangle.com, it's fairly easy to learn. It can be really relaxing and fun, and you can create really interesting and beautiful images. And it's just drawing structured patterns, and they call those patterns tangles. So you can create these tangles with a combination of dots, lines, simple curves, F-curves, orbs. I will thicken this in post-production. I just want to give you a sense of it's a little off. And I have a friend that loves to Zentangle in Connecticut. Her name's Corey, and she does a lot of Zentangles. And it's really a non-representational and unplanned kind of art. And you can focus just on the stroke, so you really have to, get into that nice, relaxed area of your brain.
Maureen, one of our participants apparently is a dog lover and would love to see a picture of the puppy.
Oh, Lord. I can't really show it at this point because my phone is being used, but I will try to do that at the end. They're all beautiful dogs, all of them. So, she's a golden retriever, by the way. She said she can wait. So you want to try to keep your hand relaxed, which is hard to do with these finer points on a rock, finer nibs. So this is kind of a sloppy version, but I will clean it up later. And is that her? That's here's an old photo of Betty. Yeah, let's see if we can give you a good, there we go. That's Betty. That was a year, well, probably 6 months ago at least. Yeah, thank you, Jill. Jill likes my puppies. Okay, so yeah, the Zentangle.com gives you lots of information, lots of ways to practice. I mean, you can mix and match any of this art. You don't have to just do Zentangle. You could take a sponge and dip it in paint and create another color. So one of the things I think is just would be so really cool is to use the Zentangle method, and you're creating beautiful images, and again, it's going to create focus and add to your creativity, your self-confidence, and a sense of well-being. And I imagine creating a sand garden with a bunch of small little Zentangle rocks that can help you meditate. A lot of therapists use sand tables. I think it's a great tool and very easy way to meditate and just take some time for yourself. So please continue ahead as I work. I'm going to put, instead of a little heart within the heart or paw, well, maybe I'll do the paw. I was going to put a B for Betty, but let me try a big, and this will be hard to color in. I'm going to do a big paw. Color it in. And sometimes the paint is hard to get going on something that's not paper, but it's not impossible. So here, I got to prime you can actually prime it on the rock to get a better toe. on your rock and spread that paint around. So I have a little ridge here that's making it hard. Okay, so that's basically a very simple Zentangle rock. It's going to need a little touch up for my ego later. But again, art, you know, it's sloppy, like I said, and you can work it, and you know, it'll become what it will be, and it's usually something that's very satisfying at the end.
Maureen, we have another question.
Sure.
For those who aren't confident about drawing skills, would it work to sketch out a design or letters with a pencil and then paint over it, or would the pencil lines show through the paint?
I don't think it would show through. We usually, in our acrylic art, we use chalk. So you can get different colored chalks to sketch your first line. And after everything's dried, you take a paper towel, you crumple it up wet, you squeeze all that water out, and then you dab it. You don't want to smear it. You just dab it on the chalk lines, and that'll take the chalk up. It's such an easy way to do things when you're not a good, you know, an experienced artist. And I am not an experienced artist as far as drawing. I've only been painting again, you know, for the past 3 or 4 years, really painting and in acrylic. And, you know, I hadn't done it since I was 16 and younger. I used to sketch a lot. I really enjoyed pencil sketching and colored pencils and things like that, a little bit of oil painting. So it's been a huge gap of time, you know, that I had. So, and it takes practice. You have to, you know, you have to accept that it takes time to learn things, and there's different methods. You know, you can get a stencil that you can place over your rock that's kind of sticky. You can make them. Sometimes they're available online, and then you paint over the stencil like I did with the tape, and it can, you know, make whatever pattern is in that stencil. So there's many ways of doing things. And, you know, I just feel like, and I do this when I'm painting, if I get really frustrated and I start judging myself, I walk away for a minute and I take some distance from my canvas and I look at it from afar, which I was, you know, taught to do. I did those paint and sip classes for a good year, and I think I did 50 paintings in that year. And it was such a nice stress reliever when I lived up in New England. So just be patient, watch some tutorials, go paint and sip, you know, play with it. We're not Michelangelo. So just, or, you know, Georgia O'Keeffe, we're just gonna learn as we go. That's how I paint. Once I walk away from a painting and I come back, I just have to understand that at that second, it's not looking the way I want it to, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be something magical at the end of the day, or something I may want to paint over and try again. So, you know, you do what you have to do. All right. Any more questions?
None right now.
Okay. So I'm going to bring back, since I have a few minutes, I'm going to bring back my first rock that I worked on. I don't want it to dry too much. So happy birthday, Betty. It's kind of, and I can outline that paw in black too. I'll bring back this rock. Now this is where I start to get messy. So I'm gonna get some paper towels. And just a tip, if you're working at a table, it doesn't hurt to tie or tape a bag. I have a bag taped to my left to put towels and garbage in, you know, as I go. So I have less clutter in front of me. How's it going over there, Jill? Jill's judging herself. They are very slippery. That's a good point, Jill. When you're, that's why I put them down on, you know. Yeah, that's okay. You can paint over it. So she had a slippery rock, which rocks are famous for. And I'm going to try to get this tape up if I can see it. Come on, tape. Sorry, this takes a second. Okay, here's a little piece. I cut my nails, so I don't really have a good, there we go. All right, here's our first.
Don't you hate it when tape sticks?
Yes, it's very frustrating. Very frustrating. All right, so let's see how this works. It's not going to be perfect, I'm sure, but you know what? I can add to it. So there's one end. I don't want to smear it too much.
This is a message for Jill. There's no pressure, but we want to see the rocks that she's painted when this is over.
Okay, she's panicking right now. I don't know about it. Jill's an O&M instructor, and at the VA, she works as a bros. So she does a little bit of everything, goes out to veterans' homes and, you know, does assessments and training in their neighborhoods and such. So she's got a lot of years of experience, a few more than me, and she's excellent instructor. Of course, she never taught me anything, but no. All right, so I'm gonna throw this out. Let's see if I can keep working this tape. So you can see already that it's not a perfect white line, but I can go back and manage that. It's just because this tape is really, really sticking well. I probably waited a little too long to peel it up. All right, so once I get this peeled up, we're gonna start looking at videos for acrylic pouring. And I decided to do videos so you can kind of sit back and see. So I'll have to touch up the white here on the rock. You can sit back and see what an acrylic pour prep looks like. And then, so there's my Scottish flag. I need to touch it up a little later, but I'm pretty happy with that for now. And that's how you can, you know, use tape. Now the white needs a little more coating as well, just to make it thicker. So I'm going to move that back out of the way. Now, let's see. So this next part, we're going to show some videos. I don't think I showed you my acrylic pour setup earlier. I failed to do that, and I apologize. After we look at these videos, I'll bring that setup over here. And I can kind of describe what's going on in the videos. So I have a cup there, and I put 80%, 20%. Doesn't need to be that proportion. I'll talk about that. And you put the Liquitex and the paint in. So 80% for that particular pour was Liquitex, and then 20% was water and paint, acrylic paint. And then you stir, 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 stir. So you can't stir anymore. And we'll go into the next video in a second to show you that. And I did other colors. So to see the consistency there is a little runny, but you want it to be kind of like honey. So I'm pouring yellow paint into that already, the white Liquitex, which is a pouring medium. It helps make it more fluid, the paint more fluid. I'm adding a touch of water, and then I'm going to stir, stir, stir. Okay, and then I'm going to stir it. We took the sound out of this so I could describe it a little bit more quickly. And I didn't use as much paint as I'm using today. Okay. So again, that's another cup. And we're going to go to the next video, I believe. All right, so now I have a few colors, and I'll clear a jar so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to pour the more dense color in first, and I'm not going to stir it. I'm just going to pour it in. then I'm gonna pick another color up. Right now I'm stirring my own colors here, so they're ready to go. So we had a nice light blue there, and now I'm gonna add a bright yellow. So you can guess what colors are gonna come out of this one. And you just layer it in. Now I only did a couple of layers, I didn't overdo it. And then I'm gonna put some white paint on top, and all these are mixed with the Liquitrex pouring medium. Again, that helps it get runny. And yeah, you can layer several, amounts of that paint. You can just keep changing the layers and adding to it. It doesn't have to be that little. So the next video is going to show me actually pouring. This is called a dirty pour. And we'll get to my rock in a second. So I have 2 primed rocks and 1 unprimed rock. And again, you already saw those rocks just to see the difference. And I'm just going to gently pour across and around these rocks. Doesn't have to dump all at once. That's another method for canvases that works really well, where you flip a cup onto the canvas. And the fluid helps it spread out across the rock. And sometimes you have to, add a whole lot more to get it all over where you need it to be. You can use your hands to move the rocks around, but just like Jill said, they're very slippery. And I'm actually putting gloves on right now because this is going to be an extremely messy demonstration. But hopefully, well, I'll leave one glove off for a second. Hopefully in the end, we'll get a nice rock. So you see, I'm moving it around. Right now, I've only done the top in this video of each rock. I didn't really do the bottoms. And after they're done, and I've poured all the paint I want on it, these take a long time to dry, especially if your paint's too thick. You really have to work it into a thin paint. So another formula that I use is you use 1 part acrylic paint. So whatever height it is in your cup, then 1.5 of the acrylic pour medium. So 1.5 of the amount of paint that's in there. And then you stir it and then start to add a little tiny bit of water to help get that honey consistency. So I'm moving the rock around to try to get some of that paint to flow. Nice and messy. Yeah, so, right. So somebody's asking if that's a painting rack. So what I have is a tin from Ocean State Job Lot. They're very cheap. They're good size. And a rack cookie rack from the dollar store. And I've put in that setup, I have white paper towels, but in the setup you're going to see me today I have brown paper towels or paper that you can have a little contrast. And then I've taped the edges down with painter's tape. It really works well because this is a messy process. And a lot of people will take that paint at the bottom after it dries and they'll peel it up and they'll make, with resin, they'll make necklaces or earrings or other art with it. So a lot of people make sure they don't waste the paint because it's easy in a pour to lose a lot of paint, as you're going to see. All right. So we're going to come back to the live shot here, and I'm going to show you a few tricks. So this is my gigantic rock. My camera setup isn't optimal for this, but I raised it up a little bit. I painted both sides of the rock. I'm going to actually hold it almost like a vertical position so that when I do pour, I'm going to pour over the whole edge here and let it move on both sides. I'm not going to worry about that little white spot I have. So I've chosen a few colors. Who knows what they're going to look like in the end, but I have a nice red and blue that's made a nice rich purple, and it's dripping like honey, which is what we want. I've got a good green going here. Again, that's dripping like honey. I don't know if you can see that very well from that angle. It's hard to show. And then I have yellow and a little bit of black. And then I have a whole bunch of the fluid with white paint that I've mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed. So we have a nice flow there. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to try something that's very hard for me to perform at home. And again, these are slippery when they're wet, so be very careful and make sure you have enough protection on for your clothes, or if you're wearing old clothes. I have a little clear cup right here, and I'm going to move this rock out of the way for a moment. Hopefully my rack won't tip over. And I'm going to take these different colors, and I'm going to use what I consider the heavier paint, or the paint that I really want to shine through the base. I'm going to use the purple. So I'm just going to begin layering my color. Just a little bit on the bottom. Take my glove off for this part. I'm going to put a little tiny bit of black in there. I don't need a whole lot of black, just a little bit. Okay, because that black's going to sink down. And then I'm going to try, I think I'll try my green. See how I'm mixing it before I pour it. Okay, pour it in there. Now this is a very wide cup. You don't necessarily have to use one this wide. It actually can work in a cup like the one I'm using that the paint is already in. And then I'm going to add the yellow on top. Mix, mix, mix. Nice honey. Pour that in. Okay, now I'm going to add to each. Sorry, I have some silicone here. And I'm going to put that in a few drops in the yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to do a very short stir. I'm not going to stir it long. And what's really cool about this, hopefully, that will come out, is we're going to get some cells. So a cell is basically like a biological cell. It's got a nucleus in the center. A little bit of in this color, little silicone. Stir it just a little bit, just a few times, move it around. And a little bit of purple. So they have the nucleus, then they have the center, outside of the center, in the middle area. There's another color that will show up. So the center color, like an eye, a nucleus, and then there's another color in the middle, and then there's usually the heavier color will outline and be the membrane around the cell. So we're going to try to create that. Wish me luck. I'm actually going to put a little of the white in. This is the fluid with some white paint in it. Go back to purple, which has some silicone in it now. Hopefully this will work. Sometimes it's hard to get these cells to appear, and I'm still learning how to do it. So if not, I'll put a video up if we don't see any, and we'll go from there. And that, you can watch other people who've been doing it a lot longer than I. You don't have to be exact about how you pour the paint in. You just don't want it to all sink within each other. Let's see. How about some green? Some more green. Just a little. And I'll add some more. Big bunch of yellow. Here's my last yellow. We'll see what happens. It's always something different. Never know. Paper towel for a second. Now, so let's give this the old army try. We've got the prepped rock, we've got the fluid, the pour mixture together. I'm going to take a small stick. I'm not going to stir this vigorously. I'm just going to do some passes to kind of mix things slightly. Okay. Right. Glove time. Hopefully I won't drop this on my foot. I'm actually going to stand up for this because it is a little tricky. So how am I doing on time so far? Where are we at?
Maureen, I think you're doing fine on time. There was a question, what are some of the fragrances you add to distinguish different colors? Lemon for yellow, but
yeah, I try to use the color that matches what we typically know as the scent that goes with it. So orange paint would be an orange extract. Vanilla I use for white, lemon for yellow, green if you have a peppermint. You know, anything that smells like that color to you. That, you know, and I find food extract, you only need to put a little in when you're ready to go. And, you know, that's plenty for what you're going to do. I don't know if anybody who's on was at my class in Pennsylvania, or I did one up in New Hampshire in 2019 as well in the fall for the New England conference, but they used a lot of different adaptive items to work with their paintings that I taught. And one I taught a very abstract painting, and another we did a tree. So I think Lori, my friend Lori in Connecticut, did that. And it's a lot of fun. And again, it's all experimenting. If you don't find that a scent helps you and better lighting is what you need, you know, try that out. I'm going to actually stand up.
Maureen, do you know if essential oils will work to flavor the paints?
I don't know. I would imagine oil might affect the paint. So Lori's saying that our painting was a lot of fun. Thanks, Lori. It might affect how the paint looks, but try it, you know, get some canvases. Another thing I do, and I'm going to try it here, I found very kind of nice to do as I pour. This is a really big canvas. Maybe I'll just do a little. Grab one of my little ones. There we go. So after I pour, I'm going to put the rock down and I'm going to let it kind of sit just for a little bit. And I'm going to heat it with my hair dryer, or you can use a heat gun, which looks like this. It's a simple heat gun. And you just do it quickly and not too close to the paint. Excuse me. And what happens is it pops air bubbles, which can be, doesn't look as great, you know. All right, so here we go. This is the magic hour. I'm gonna hold it kind of this way. I'm gonna get very messy. And I'm hoping to make a second pour pattern on this canvas underneath. And I'm trying to do this so you all can see it. I'm trying to adjust it a little. Here we go. All right, so this is called a dirty pour. And I can't really get too close off the edge there, so bear with me a little bit and I'll show you. All right, so I'm gonna save some paint. I'm gonna maneuver that rock around, hoping for some cells. I would be so happy if I had some cells. They're really hard for me to create. I don't really see, I see some air bubbles coming up. I didn't really cover the back too well, but I'm not too worried. I got the edges pretty well. All right, and then I'm gonna now take my gloves off because so you can manipulate this paint any way you want, you know, as it's developing and moving and flowing. I'll put some more on my canvas here. Move that around as well, so you can see how it flows on the canvas. I'm trying not to drop it on the table and on the camera. Let's see. So it takes its time to flow. Here we go. It's hard to see with the camera setup I have. I'm sorry. We'll work on that in future episodes. So I'm just going to let that sit, even though the whole canvas isn't covered. And I'm going to take a little more paint, cover this one little spot here. It doesn't help to add silicone after the fact, just so you know. It's more useful and helpful at the top end when you're putting the paints. So, all right, so we got a lot of thick paint on this. So I'm gonna grab another glove and I'm gonna move that paint some more. I've got a few more minutes. Hopefully we'll get what we need out of this rock. What I would like is a rock with some nice cells. So I gotta dump some of this extra paint so those cells can come up. Let's see how we do it. Here. Trying to go with some spring colors. I'm losing a ton of paint, and that's okay. Really want to let it drip off a little bit. It is very slippery, difficult to maneuver at this point. I'm just trying to get the heavier paint off there. All right, so I'm gonna get the hair dryer. I'm gonna zap it quickly. I'm gonna add a little paint to this corner. So this is a very abstract, swirly, funky looking image, you know, when you're done with it. And once these have sat and dried and they're where you want them to be, you know, like I said, it can take a few days. Like this rock might take up to 3 days to dry. Once you do that, you can write on it. You can add anything you want to it, and then you can seal it. And again, you want to do that outside. You might need to sand the bottom with some sandpaper to get the paint that's stuck underneath. And I try to move those rocks around when I can with I'll take some stirring sticks like this, and I'll lift the rocks underneath to kind of maneuver them a little bit. I don't know if I see any cells. I see a few possible ones over here. All right, so get my new hair dryer. Sorry for the noise. I'm actually going to be able to move the paint a little with this too, which is fun. Let's try to get some air bubbles popped. I'm going to blast it high just for a second. Move that paint. All right, I'm going to drip a little more of that yellow on top because I moved some of that heavier paint around. So we'll see if we can get little of that lighter color to come out. I see more dark color coming out, but we'll try.
Maureen, are you able to write on a poured paint rock after it's dry?
Oh
but
yeah,
before you seal it?
absolutely, yes. Yeah, you can do all sorts of things. I'm gonna actually lift this up. I see a few cells on the edge here. I don't have any really great cells, but we're gonna let some more of that paint drip off. So the paint should run like honey, which it's kind of doing. And I just added a little more on top to give it a little more color in the middle. So I think I see a cell right here, very tiny one. I'll bring my camera back down. If you give me a second. Come way down, bumpy. And we'll try to get a little closer because lifting it's very messy. And I mean, the colors aren't showing up as bright as I see them. And I'll show you on this piece a couple of cells that I see. So this was underneath. And I see a cell right here. I see a little one right there, that little white dot with the purple in the middle and the green around the edge. So I probably had more paint underneath that didn't have any silicone in it than I should have had. But that's how you learn. And I can still move this paint around. It's still fairly fluid. Slowing down though. And you could take a palette knife and do some stuff with that as well. I mean, you can create some extra lines if you like. Spread it out. I don't want to break my cells because I'm so proud of those few that I got. You just want to be careful not to muddy, like get it all muddy, as they say. So that's, basically the paint pour. Sometimes you get cells all over the place. And if you mix the paint with the silicone quite a bit, then you're going to end up with tiny cells. I just think I didn't have enough silicone in the bottom layers. So I keep learning.
Maureen, we have a couple of questions about the cell again. One of the participants asked, what really is a cell again? And another asked, is it where it's like 3D?
Well, if you think about those of you that have looked into space pictures, like of nebulas and galaxies and stuff, sometimes cells remind me of that. Sometimes they remind me of somebody that has a hazel iris. I have a friend, Diane, who has beautiful hazel eyes, but she's got these very distinct green dots in those hazel eyes are beautiful. So a cell basically is heavier paint at the bottom and lighter paint are going to interact after they sit on top of each other for a while. And when you pour it, you're spreading that paint out, and the silicone helps that happen, helps that lower color come up and come through. I moved my paint around quite a bit, so some of my cells are not as, they're not big. There's one right here, and it's just two colors. It's got the black and a blue edge. So a cell looks like if you looked at a tree leaf, and it's got distinct little cells in it, or if you looked at our skin under a microscope. So there's an outer, a middle, and an inner color, and they're just the viscosity. That's a nice big art word of the paint. The different kinds of the different colors. Some paints are heavier than other paints. So I definitely will put a good description on the Facebook page so that you can see good cells. And as I practice, I'll share some stuff, and you can read about really good cells. So I only have about 5 more minutes, so I'm gonna kind of get to that social media part. Now, this is a part that I'm gonna continue to talk about as I move forward with the social media pages, and I'm going to work on getting you those great resources, hopefully soon, that we can add to what you're going to be sent after today's presentation. So in order to connect our rocks on social media, I found a great tutorial on Marketing 91 is the name of the website. And they shared this tutorial where you can create your Facebook page as a public figure or a community page, and it walks you through the different steps. So I'm going to kind of go through those steps without actual images on the computer, but I promise we'll get that stuff for you in the near future. So a public or community page is different than a business page, mostly because you're not selling things, you're not creating ads, etc. And there's a lot of websites for creating community pages that are not connected to Facebook or Instagram or any of those. So I don't know how I can move it down. That's as far as down as I can get. I can lift the tray. People want to see it, but I don't get. I mean, let me take my camera off and I'll do that. So there are guidelines for beginners. Sorry, I'm doing two things at once. It's very challenging. All right, let me get closer in. Actually, we don't have the best light right now either. Did you turn the lights on, Joe?
And Maureen, while you're doing that, someone missed a comment earlier about a blindness training website. Could you repeat that sometime?
A blindness training website.
Yeah,
So I think what they're referring to is that I'm creating with my tech guys here a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. And what we're going to do with these rocks is, like I showed earlier, they're going to have on the back, there's a little glare, but that's okay. On the back, they're going to have join us at Facebook, or join us on Facebook at Vision Rocks 21. And that will lead them to the page. And on that page, we're going to have different things that will show us. Let me tilt this down a little bit. It's going to show people information about painting rocks, but also show them what is AER. We're going to have a video from our Penn president talking about what AER is and as an organization. I've connected the Pill Willet Farm that I'm on the board of, so people can find some resources that way. We're going to talk about different vision loss, different rehab, not actually doing rehab on videos, but talking about opportunities to get help if you need it, or learning O&M or how to use your stove, etc. And then also, what are the careers in this field? So can I lift the camera back up? We're good?
you're good.
Okay. So the big thing before I end is that you need to be aware of copyright. Oh, I just shut my camera off. Sorry. We don't really need it at this point, but you have to be careful about copyright issues and using other people's videos and art, etc. So you want to make sure you give credit where credit is due. And I'll also be providing information on that, liability issues, legal concerns when you're interacting with other agencies. And I'll also add resources on how to use rocks for self-care, to use in dialectical behavioral therapy and regulating emotions, talking about healing crystals and stones, and tips. I have a website with tips for parents and counselors for using rocks like the sand table in their daily lives or their families and clients or for themselves. And one great little tip for the parents was to take just a plain rock and give a little kid a brush with water, and they could spend the whole day doing that as the water dries. So I want to thank everybody that joined in today. Please take a selfie of you and your creation and send them to me at the email provided on your supply list. I'm going to create a slideshow on the Vision Rock pages. It will be shared. And again, just put on the back, join us at Vision Rocks 21, the @ on Facebook, FB I put. And I'm very grateful to all of you for joining me. And thank you, Cheryl. and all the members of the leadership team and the technology team that got me going and made this presentation possible. So thanks for everybody willing to try something different. Let's see what Jill has for us.
They're horrible.
No, they're not. They're cute. I don't have my camera on. I'll hold them up. You can see Jill's little. That's a great little ladybug.
I was right.
Yeah. I'll just put them here. All right. So, yep, we're all right. I think I'm just waiting to close up with Holly.
And if anyone did complete any of the rocks and they want to show them when Holly is done her closing, feel free to, we'll open it up in an open mic session and feel free to show your rocks.
Oh, yes. Take those selfies too.
Thank you so much, Maureen. We are so grateful to you. This was such a great session. So relaxing, fun, informative. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can't say it enough. I absolutely loved it.
Great, thank you.
Rock painting is something that's new to me, and so I learned so much today. I also love that you provide all those resources, so I can, go back and look and take some time and really, just be able to think about it and get ready for it. Just curious, do you have a favorite type of rock painting? What's your favorite?
Right now, I mean, I think I'm going to enjoy some of the memorial rocks, but I also, I love this pouring technique and learning how to pour. It's just such a process, and every time it's different, and sometimes I get just a little bit better for what I would like to create. So
yeah,
they're all fun.
It's really cool. I like how the colors do that sort of swirly thing that they do. Yeah.
Thank you.
And how do you get your ideas? Like, how do you think of what you're going to do next? For someone like me who doesn't have many ideas, how do you get them?
On rocks or just in general?
Just in general, for rocks, for, like what you would paint next.
Well, when I take the classes nowadays at Paint Sips, which I haven't done in a while because of COVID, I will go in with an image that I've taken with my camera and try to paint that. You can move paint around in so many different ways, and in pours as well. In the background, there's a painting I did that was just pouring these colors and using paper towels. So I get a lot of ideas from photography, and I just also, you see something and it's like, oh, I want to try painting that. But I love the idea of sharing all those classes and things with people with different disabilities. I don't want to just do vision loss. I want to spread it out, because there's a lot of adaptive techniques that we don't get to touch on just with vision loss. And as we know, we have kids that have multiple disabilities. So I want to be able to, present that kind of stuff and share it with people, because I think it's a place we haven't really gone in our field.
Maureen, I was wondering, someone's asking if you could discuss briefly writing on the back of rocks, or in addition to pens, can you use labels that would stay on, things like that?
Yes, if you had, say you wanted to, oh, I don't have my camera, sorry. This is what I wrote on the back, and it's backwards, but I think.
No, it's good.
Oh, it is, okay. So that's what I write in a Sharpie on the back. You can do it before or after you paint. I have to touch that image up, but it's kind of hard to see the paw. You could put a label that says that. If you wanted to create a label that says that, or if you have your own community page, you want to put your at Facebook, you can do a label, but then you're going to seal all of that with the spray. You can also seal in resin, but that's a whole nother class. It's much more difficult than just the simple crayon latex or crayon, sealer. So do everything you want before you seal it, and it should be fine. And then they won't get destroyed if it rains too.
Oh, that's true. Thank you again, Maureen. That was just fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone in the audience for your participation. We hope you enjoyed this session, and that the information and the ability to express yourselves through this creative outlet has been beneficial to you. I know it's been beneficial to me. Thank you to the Penn AER Board of Directors for your support. Thank you so much for everyone who has been working on the Leadership Development Committee, and for the planners that have put the thought and the work into the leadership series from the beginning, from the ideas to make this to be a reality. I'd also like to thank our wonderful AV team for all of their support and assistance with the production of this session. I would like to extend my gratitude to the Communications Committee, who's provided assistance with promotions and accessibility. There are so many people that have been working tirelessly for this session, as well as the entire leadership series. The names will be listed individually on the end of at the end on the slides, but I hope you know we definitely appreciate all of your hard work. You should receive an email shortly after this session that includes the link to the Dropbox folder for the resources from today's session, instructions to receive a certificate of attendance, and a session evaluation. We would also love for you to join us on April 21st to 23rd for the PennDOW AER Virtual Chapter Conference. Please visit our website at penndowAER.org. We're excited to present these opportunities to you, and we hope you can join us. You're welcome to join us after the credits for an open mic session. If you do stay on, just know that your status may be changed by our tech guys to allow you to show your rocks and join us in a conversation. So by saying this, what I mean is that you may experience a momentary interruption, but you'll be automatically reconnected, so don't worry. The closing code for today's session is Mother Earth. So Mother, M-O-T-H-E-R, Earth, E-A-R-T-H. Thank you again, all of you, so very, very much. And Maureen, thank you so very much. All right, let's roll the credits.
Thank you for joining us. Stay well and take charge of your own well-being. Taking charge. Restore, refresh, renew. PennDOW AER expresses deep appreciation to our guest presenters for their ideas, insights, and generosity. Maria Lepore-Stevens, Billy Brookshire, Marine Army, thanks for being on our team. Please join us later this spring when we present Billy Brookshire's Taking Care of Ourselves. Help us so we can help others. The date and time will soon be announced. This webinar was provided by the PennDOW chapter of AER as part of our annual Leadership Development Series. Series Development Team, Chair and Producer Mary Nell McLennan, Co-Producer Vince McVeigh, Content and Talent Team, Carrie Leaders, Mary Nell McLennan, Vince McVeigh, Holly Russell, Aaron Weaver, Tracy Whitehead, Technical Production Team, Rebecca Knobb, Greg Leisure, Doug Williams, Registration and Communication Team, Brenda Egan, Pauline Marano, Publicity and Promotion Team, Nancy Ashley, Dale Cohen, Marcy Grayboys, Holly Russell, Resource Kits Team, Dale Cohen, Holly Russell, Tracy Whitehead, CEU Certificates, Aaron Weaver. Be on the lookout for your resource kit. Immediately following this webinar, PennDOW will email you a link to a resource kit of information on rock painting methods for you to use and for you to share with your students and clients. This webinar has been approved by ACV-REP. To request a certificate of participation within 7 days of this webinar, email the following information to erin.weaver@delaware.gov. That is ERIN.WEAVER@DELAWARE.gov. Please email your name, the email address to which the certificate should be sent, your name as it shows up in the Zoom for this event, the session code and date for which you request a certificate. PennDOW AER thanks our techies, Greg Leisure, Doug Williams, Becky Knobb, and Patton for their time, resources, and support. PennDOW AER thanks our Communications Committee for their time and expertise in making our promotional materials accessible. PennDOW extends our special thanks to Icons 8 and the musician Gabriel for the song Belong. This song played during the opening loop. As a reminder, the closing code for this session is Mother Earth, capital MOTHER space capital EARTH. That's Mother Earth. A picture of the Penn AER logo.